I'm Ryan Pike. He's Shane Stevenson. It's FlamesNation Radio. According to my fancy outline, it's episode number 58 of this fine program. As always, ding dong, we're delivered to you by DoorDash and also presented by the lovely people at Eau Claire Distillery, the makers of Ripper's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. And Shane, a lot of Flames fans are probably in the mood for a stiff drink in a combination of the weather in southern Alberta over the last few days. It is, after a brief preview about a week or 2 weeks ago, we got just slapped upside the head with Old Man Winter's wrath this week.
Today I'm down in Lethbridge in Calgary, and I was taking roundabouts at 15K today, and I still sliding all over the place. So I'm like, okay. This is the first snowfall of the season's always leave the house 45 minutes before you need to be where you need to be season.
Even if it's a 10-minute commute.
Because then, even if it's a 10-minute commute, it's early because it might show up just on time.
The first day is always a bit of a gut punch. And coincidentally, the Calgary Flames, since the last time we chatted, Shane, did not have a good week. They had 2 games against division opponents. We'll run through them really quickly in a segment we're affectionately calling the rundown, because we're very imaginative. So for the rundown this week, let's look at the 2 games the Flames played. They lost 3-2 to the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday night, and then they lost 5-4 to the Seattle Kraken on Tuesday night. The first win in Seattle Kraken history against the Flames, and we'll give credit where it's due. The Edmonton Oilers in their game against the Flames, the Edmonton Oilers played a good third period. They took advantage of some mistakes the Flames made. On Saturday night, there was the 2-2 goal has drawn a bit of consternation amongst Flames fans in terms of the performance of Jacob Markstrom. I'll say this. Cody Ceci, very aware, showing some nice situational awareness, saw that there was some really soft coverage on the other side of the zone around young Connor McDavid. So he blasted a high rim around the boards. Markstrom went behind the net to knock it down like he's supposed to. Didn't quite get it. That happens sometimes. He went back to the front of the net, and unfortunately, because I believe it was Kevin Rooney, his assignment, he didn't come down low enough or quick enough to cut off Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid collected the puck and put it on net like you're supposed to. And, Markstrom did what he was supposed to. He played the puck and then got right back to the net. McDavid did what he's supposed to. A lot of skaters in red didn't on that goal, and it ended up tying the game. And then
the fluky, like that puck bounce into the slot was just a kind of moment.
It's that, but it's also like Daryl Sutter referred to, I believe it was Uyghur and Tanev doing a D-to-D pass, which is standard. It's on a dump in. It's a very on the third goal, there was a dump into the zone, and the Flames collected, did a D-to-D below the goal line like you're supposed to. And as Uyghur is trying to get a pass up to the forward to start moving things out, Zach Hyman put his stick in the lane, and like you're supposed to. And Zach Hyman deflected the puck from where it was supposed to go over to Connor McDavid. McDavid did a very nice no-look back pass back to Hyman for a tap in. It was a nice goal. It was, the Oilers caused the Flames to make a mistake. Two mistakes.
Quick strike too. Like, it was the second the mistake was made. It was,
by the time you realize what had happened, you're like, oh shoot, that's in the net.
They didn't even have time to react. McDavid's that quick though. It only takes half a second for him to not only process what's going on, but then act on it. Most people, that takes 3 to 7 seconds to actually cognitively do something. It takes him half a second when he's skates on. It's
either one of those mistakes happened with anyone but 97 in white on the ice. It's probably not the same conversation, because
the Flames probably win if the mistakes don't happen with 97 on the ice, but the mistakes happen because 97's on.
Yeah, like it's making mistakes with or around the puck when Connor McDavid's on the ice is a lot like going swimming with a bit of an open wound in shark waters. I mean, you probably shouldn't do that. Most of the time, it might not hurt you, but if there's a shark around, you get killed. And the Flames got killed. And on Tuesday night, it was more mistakes, and I would say worse mistakes against a worse team. All due respect to the Seattle Kraken, they've taken a step. They're a better team than they were a year ago. they couldn't, it was, to be fair, they had a lot of
They got better
room
pieces.
to move.
Yeah, they got better forwards, specifically wingers.
I think they slot better. Better.
Oliver Bjorkstrand, that trade for Bjorkstrand was just robbery.
Their first line was Burakovsky, Bjorkstrand, and young Alexander Venberg. And so it's two guys that weren't on the team last year, and it makes that line a lot more dangerous. And so, I mean, again, the Flames, it was a tie game. The Flames played a really bad, to be fair, neither team was very good in the first period. Seattle was a little bit better. The Flames were much better in the second period.
The second period, they had 8 high danger chances to 0.
Yeah, and they only scored once. Calgary. The Flames were very unfortunate to only get 1 goal out of their second period. In the third period, they scored twice in a 17-second span. By 2 minutes into the period, with 18 minutes left to go, they're up by 2. And
4-2 with 18 to go.
Yeah, usually that should be automatic. It's okay.
That should be enough in the NHL.
But they took some bad penalties. They made some bad decisions with the puck. There's some bounces, but also bounces and mistakes. And
there's some blatant. There were 2 blatant turnovers. The power play turnover is the one that actually makes me more mad than the Lucic turnover.
Yeah,
the power play turnover.
The Lucic turnover and the 4-2 goal. You never see a friggin' 4-on-2 or 3-on-1 the other way. That's just weird.
Yeah, that was
great.
A 4-on-1.
Great shot.
4-on-1, and everyone online was yelling at Markstrom or Vladar to make a save, and I'm like, you defend that. Matty
Beniers going top cheddar. That's just a good shot.
With no space for what I may add, which is what skilled players and skilled finishers can do, and he is one of them. He wasn't second overall just for fun. Right, like he just for vibes alone. He can actually do it.
He's a damn fine hockey player. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it was I would say it was a comedy of errors at points, because like the Flames, I think I very succinctly pointed out after the game on Tuesday night with my tweet, the Flames snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. They were so close to having that game home and cooled, and they just found ways to get in their own way, to dispel their own momentum. 2 fairly needless penalties by Huberdeau and by Brett Ritchie.
It was Ritchie, the one that they scored on.
You give a power play with that many weapons 4 cracks at it, they're going to hurt you at some point, and they did. They took 1 too many penalties there, and then the drop pass to Kadri, weird.
Anderson should have seen. Gord was right there, and he paused. It wasn't like it was a quick no look pass.
And we spoke with I forget who it was. I want to say Wes Gilbertson, because good questions are almost always Wes. But Nazem Kadri was asked after the game in the locker room, "Did you see Gord?" He's like, "Yeah, I saw him, but I thought I could get the puck away." Like he thought he had the space to receive and just get it back up, because he sort of saw it coming together and was like, "Oh no, I think I can pull this off." And it went off of Gord, and the most fortunate bounce Gord could have gotten is the one he got straight towards the Flames blue line. And he's a good enough player that you give enough crack to that. I'll say this about Dan Vladar. On Wednesday's edition of Flames Talk, Pat and I discussed this, and my observation was this: Vladar neither stole the game nor gave it away.
No.
And he was in the position where, for the Flames to get points out of that game, he needed to make a big save. He did not. He needed 1 more big save than he
needed to make a diving cross crease save on the Sprong goal. But
he would have needed to be heroic on 1 of the 5 goals he gave up. All of them were very good goals. Carson Soucy has a really good shot. He went top cheddar. Beniers went top cheddar. Like, they had a lot of ones like that where you're like, even like the late goal in the second period that tied, the second period that tied the game, was just a weird 2-on-1 off of a turnover where he sort of flung himself at the puck and it just missed him. So I don't know what else he could have done.
The Sprong goal, the Gord goal, and the Beniers goal I put on the players. I would have loved to have one of the Soucy or Geeky goals back. I would have loved. They were a little far out. Yeah, it was a rush. But they weren't that close to the net. Ideally, you'd want one of them back, but still, it didn't happen. It didn't happen that night. It doesn't happen every night.
And if we're playing that game, let's also point out that in Seattle's net, their goaltender Joey Decord made a couple of those saves. Granted, the Flames at times seem to be shooting at him, but he made a couple nice saves on 2-on-1s. You mentioned the 8 high danger chances the Flames had in the second period. He made a lot of good stops in that second period.
for a guy that had one career win before that in 15 games, may I add. So one win in 15 games. He was able to stop, get ahead. Calgary needs to work on their finishing ability.
He made the saves that his team needed him to make. And on the flip side, I think, Vladar made the saves you should have expected him to make. They needed him to make one more big stop. And he just, because of the quality of chances against, I don't think that was in the cards for him. But that's not really, it's not meant to be an indictment on Vladar. I think it's more of an indictment of the quality of defensive play and the amount of turnovers in front of him.
And well, I mean, it's Vladar. Vladar was great all preseason. He was structurally fine there too. He wasn't like he was out of position on any of the goals too.
There was no whoopsie goals against.
No,
like it wasn't
a weak. The weakest goal that we're talking about right now is the McDavid Markstrom one total from the whole since last episode. So, and even then, that was a routine play gone awry. So, I'm just upset because they had it. They had 2 games in their hands in the third period, and they end up getting 0 points. I've been tracking for Beyond the Box Score, specifically the Corsi numbers, for 4 years now. 2 years here, 2 years at Matchsticks, and then I did a different thing when I was on my own. I have never seen them lose 2 games where every single player was on above 50% in possession, and then they lose. That does happen sometimes. I've never seen
very infrequently though. With this team, very infrequently
in a row like that. It just sucks because they kind of deserve to lose one they deserve to win after they stole the game.
They were due for a deserves to win loss.
Yeah,
they had a few deserve to lose wins too.
Based on statistics and everything like that, their record should be 6-2. They're 5-3. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, it's a 2-game losing streak. Yeah, you don't want that to pile on to each other. But I mean, they've been at home forever. These guys, someone pointed out the altitude problem still too, especially for the guys from Florida. Like they were at sea level, but I'm like, they've been here for 2 months now. Like that shouldn't be that bad. I don't know. They're trying to make excuses, but I'm like, it's 5-3. They've got a winning record.
I think you mentioned before we started recording, you mentioned that based on the metrics, they should be 6-2.
Mm-hmm.
And they're 5-3, which means there's a game in there they deserve to win that they didn't. But in the grand scheme of things, like if you play enough hockey, it'll balance out. It tends to balance out. So
there'll be games when they all go. Remember the Columbus game last year, where just everything clicked and they just won 7-0, I think it was, or 7-1 or something like that. Like they were fighting, grinding up until that point, and they were dominating pretty much every game. And then everyone was like, well, they haven't really blown it out of the water. Like all these games are close. And then they put their foot on top of Columbus.
At some point things click. And actually that's a good transition to our player spotlight. We're starting a segment called Player Spotlight. So our player spotlight this week is actually a good person to be talking about. Number 10, Jonathan Huberdeau. So Jonathan Huberdeau is, for lack of a better term, still figuring things out as a Calgary Flame. He's a very smart player. He's a very good player. It's not like he moved 2 time zones over and suddenly forgot how to play hockey. But I mentioned this with Pat on Wednesday. The idea being he still seems, I think Daryl Sutter pointed out, I think he used the phrase, he needs to play faster. And
yeah, that was what it was. I put that in my article. So yeah,
basically the distinction Daryl makes is playing fast, not being fast, playing fast. And playing fast for the Flame system is, on breakouts, they call them short quicks, like, very short passes done quickly to sort of, you go from behind the net to boom, you're at your circles, boom, you're at the blue line, you're out. And that's how you get momentum to the neutral zone. That's how you get speed and numbers into the neutral zone. And that's how you hit the offensive zone with tactical efficiency,
possession and tiers of attack. Yeah. If you're going to go for a rush chance. Yeah.
And so with Jonathan Huberdeau, he's not a slow guy, but he's playing slow right now, because I think, at least from my vantage point, when he's got the puck, and granted, I've seen every minute of hockey the Flames have played this year live. I just think that he's still processing stuff. He still has the air of someone who's figuring out where he's supposed to be in the systems. He gets the puck and goes, what am I supposed to do? Like, where a guy is going to be? What am I supposed to do with this now? And you can sort of see the gears are moving, but he sort of slows down a bit because he does like, there's nothing worse than figuring out something. It's like, imagine if you were figuring out how the rules of the road were while you were driving full speed, while the roads are icy. Like what we see this is a good analogy actually, because we see this every time it snows in southern Alberta, especially in Calgary, almost like clockwork. The first snowfall, you see you got people slowing down, partially out of care and safety, but also partially out of confusion, because you're like, you don't know how the road conditions are or what the frig everyone else is going to do on the road. So until you know what the surroundings are and what the situation is, you slow down. And is it a pain in the ass with everyone slowing down sometime more than they need to? Yeah, of course, it slows everyone down. And that's why, as Shane mentioned, you'd have to leave 45 minutes before you need to be anywhere. But you'll notice that, give it, like, say, even if the snow doesn't melt after the first plow, after 2, maybe 3 days, even if the temperature doesn't change that much, everything's a lot smoother, because everyone sort of figures out their gaps, there's braking distance, the road conditions, everyone kind of figures their crap out. And for lack of a better term, this period that we're seeing now, the first 8 games and counting, is Jonathan Huberdeau figuring out the conditions and trying to adjust. And he's slower than he usually is, and probably slower than he might want to be, because there's some caution in what he's doing, because he cares a lot, and you can just tell he's trying not to make a mistake, which is good, but it can also be a little bit of paralysis by analysis too.
And I challenge listeners, go back and look at his highlight reel from his time in Florida. A lot of these nifty, crazy passes that he was making, he didn't need to look at where his line mate was going to be. A lot of them were drop passes, and he knew Bennett or Duclair were going to be there, or when he was on the power play with Barkov, exactly where to put the puck, because he knew exactly where he liked to be. He doesn't have that yet. I'm sorry, it doesn't magically show up in 8 regular season games and 6 preseason games, which I think he only played like 3 or 4 anyways. So like, it's gonna come. And I have some numbers. You know me. I love my numbers. So I'm just gonna throw a few things out there for you. In terms of forwards, Huberdeau in expected goals is 3rd on the team with a 56.26%. So that means when he's been on the ice at 5-on-5, 56% of the scoring chances and the quality of chances have been in favor of the Calgary Flames. That's what you want. That is a very good number. His possessions at 51%. His actual goals is at 56.97. You know what's a little lower than everybody else? The on-ice shooting percentage of everyone is only at 5.3%. That should average in between 8 and 11, which means he's not just him. Everyone he's played with so far has been snake bitten.
Yep.
And that's hey, that happens. But he's still got, I think, a goal and 5 assists. Like, it's not like he's not been producing, and he's been contributing, especially on the power play. And everyone just clamoring for the 5-on-5 production. It's there. Someone needs to put the puck in the net. And someone needs to put the puck in the net. We should be talking about Elias Lindholm and 0 goals.
And we're also forgetting this, the idea that, you know, you're playing and there's teams playing against him. And the way Daryl Sutter does his line matching is he goes strength versus strength. So Elias Lindholm, the Selke Trophy runner-up last year, his line almost by default goes up against the other team's best players. Sometimes it's Backlund, but usually it's Lindholm. Last couple of years it's been Lindholm. And so you're Jonathan Huberdeau trying to figure your crap out, playing against the best players on the other team head-to-head most of the time, and learning a new system, learning new line mates, learning a new everything. It's going to take time. So,
well, Calgary got so lucky that Kadri fit so well. Like, that doesn't just happen.
And do you know, my theory, as I talked with Pat on Wednesday, my theory as to why Kadri figured out so well is the Colorado Avalanche are a really similar team system-wise to the Flames. Like, they play, like, their structure, their systems, their where the center needs to be in all 3 zones. Like, and honestly, if we're being completely honest about this, I don't think there's a lot of variation system to system in where the center goes. Like, the center,
the center's the support guy, right? Yeah, like, the center's always the support guy, but in both zones, and he takes up predominantly the middle of the ice. And ideally, your center travels more in a shift than anybody else in the entire ice.
And the wingers, though, the winger their position depends a lot on what's your breakout situation, who has the puck where in the zone. So I think in terms of the Flame system specifically, why is Kadri figuring out? Is Kadri better than Huberdeau? I don't think better is the thing about this. I just think it's the changes that he had to adjust to in terms of his situation, Colorado versus Calgary, and in terms of his position, center in Calgary versus center in Colorado. It's really similar. So I don't think he really needed to learn a lot of different things, because that's what his gig is. He's the center on the second line. So he went from being the center on the second line in Colorado with a very similar structure to center in Calgary on the second line with a very similar structure. So that is to say, is Jonathan Huberdeau playing up to his capabilities? He would say no. He admitted as much on Wednesday. He was speaking to the media, but I don't think that's a surprise, and I don't think it's necessarily something that people should be freaking out about yet.
I don't think he needed to even apologize. Like, he's been fine, and everyone wants the tangible production. But let's be real: both games they lost this week, they didn't need another goal. They shouldn't have let another one in. It's not that they're starving for offense; it's that they're giving up too much defensively. So,
you could make an argument that they're giving up too much defensively is possibly a product of them trying to do too much with the puck.
And the giving it up too much defensively hasn't happened when Huberdeau's on the ice. So why is he being the scapegoat? The fans are just mad because he's not leading the league in points like Jesper Bratt. Like it's okay, guys. Things are going fine. Yeah, they've lost 2 in a row. Guess what? That's going to happen. Everything's fine. His metrics are good. His defense is good. His offense is good. Eventually, someone's going to start putting the puck in the net for him. And then the noise will stop.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
unneeded noise right now.
Unfortunately, the best the Flames can do this year is go 79-3. So I mean,
shucks.
Realistically, if you look at the metrics from smart people like Dom Lesession and others throughout the interwebs, Flames are probably like a 48-51 or 50 goal or 50 win team this year. Yeah. So like that means they're gonna lose between 20 and 30 times.
Yeah,
that's just how things work. And
they lost. What are they 1-2 to start last year before their 5-game road trip?
Yeah,
something like that. Like
it's not gonna be a perfect season. And I think if you're an optimist, Shane and I are tend to be optimistic in our viewpoints on the world, for better or for worse.
Yeah, if the numbers were crap, I'd not be here saying this.
The numbers are positive, and I think the fact is, the weird dumb shit that's going on for the Flames, for lack of a better term, seems like the kind of stuff they can tidy up. So anyway, that's our player spotlight. Now let's talk about, so every week, folks, especially since we've entered into our wonderful partnership with our friends at Betway, Shane, for every game day, comes up with his bets of the day, where he gives you 3 recommended bets, and he provides, as is Shane's role in our team, he provides this statistical background in terms of why these are the things that he would bet if he was a betting person. And so
I had a bad week, folks.
Much like the Calgary Flames had some disappointing results this week, despite the underlyings being generally sound, Shane also had a similar week. So I imagine he's probably feeling fairly similar to some gentlemen in red. So here are his bets, his recommended bets of the day for the 2 games. So Saturday against Edmonton, he had his primary bet was betting over 6.5 goals in the game, and saying McDavid would get 2 or more points. McDavid held up his end of the bargain. McDavid had 3 points, but it was a 5-goal game. So the under took it, so that wiped it out.
I was in the stands cheering for empty net goals. I was like, pull the goalie down!
You needed 2, and you didn't get either. He bet for Mackenzie Weegar to get 1 or more assists as a secondary bet. That did not happen. And he also bet that Jonathan Huberdeau and Leon Draisaitl would both get a 1 or more power play points. That did not happen. So he went over.
The Oilers held up their end of the bargain, man. Draisaitl got a power play point. McDavid got all his points.
If you wanted to probably encapsulate how the Flames fans feel, the phrase "the Oilers held up their end of the bargain" is probably something a lot of betting and non-betting people are saying.
And they took my Uyghur assist away. I was in the nosebleeds.
He got a secondary assist and then they took it away halfway.
I was in the dome. I'm in the nosebleeds of the dorm next to the spotlight guy. Like I'm way up there, and I am a few beers deep. And they announced we were going to assist, and I'm just pumped. I'm like, okay, at least I got one. And then, of course, Mike, who's still in Arizona, by the way, Mike Gould is still in Arizona, breaks the news to me because I don't have the instant replay that, no, they're going to take it away from him. And I'm like, come on, man.
Mike Gould, our friend who the Daily Faceoff sent down to Tempe to take in the opening weekend at Mull Arena, he was watching a Flames Oilers game at a bar in Phoenix, and he thought, I'm just going to text Shane and tell him about assists getting taken away. That is everything you need to know about Mike Gould in one sentence, friends. The other game, the Flames against the Seattle Kraken on Tuesday, Shane's primary bet was a Mangiapane one or more assists. No. Secondary bet was both Jaden Schwartz and Jonathan Huberdeau to get one or more points. Also no. And finally, his tertiary bet was Nazem Kadri to get one or more goals and one or more assists. He had an assist.
He
got a goal. He had a very nice goal.
He just didn't get the assist.
Yeah.
And Huberdeau, I thought I went heavy on the first line. New look first line. It didn't even last the whole game. They took Mange and put him with Bax and Coleman halfway through the second. So
then they switched it back. They only mixed up for the second period.
Yeah, and the second period, the one where they had the best period of the season, and they had Dubé on the first line. And so when that happened, I was like, okay. And when they did get a power play, they didn't even put Schwartz out there. I was like, come on. Like I've watched all of these games. I didn't watch the Kraken play the previous two games to study this game tape for these people. And then, yeah, that's betting though, folks. That's betting. Sometimes you can be completely informed and it doesn't go your way because you don't get to control it. That's why we preach informed betting and bet responsibly. Please don't bet in your house.
And if we're being completely friggin' honest here, folks, betting on hockey,
the most random,
totally random stuff. Baseball, if you know enough about pitchers and their tendencies, you can probably do okay betting baseball. Probably don't want to bet a lot because random shit can happen in sports. But hockey, I think of all the sports, has the most weird random stuff go wacky on you. Like if you have a bad inning in baseball, there's only so much damage you can do. Even a bad period in hockey, or like imagine if you were a Kraken fan, have a bad 17 seconds and all of a sudden it swings one way. The Flames have a bad 5 minutes, it swings completely the other way. Sports.
Yeah, and while we mention that, I think the odds of Calgary to win that were over 85%, and it went to 12% in that 3 minutes span.
A friend of the site, Allison Lucan, who's on the trip, embarrassingly enough. So disclosure, I'm a big Allison Lucan fan. Anyone who doesn't follow her on Twitter, she's at Allison L, one L in Allison, and then just the letter L. She is now part of the broadcast team for the Seattle Kraken on Root Sports. She is, in a word, just brilliant. She does analytics storytelling, I think, better than almost anyone in the sport does. So follow her if you don't. I was busy during the game. I didn't get a chance to say hello to her. She follows me on Twitter because she's foolish for some reason, but we didn't get a chance to say hello. So I'm just going to copy this straight from her Twitter. How impressive with the Kraken's comeback? So according to moneypuck.com, after the Flames scored their fourth goal, their chances of winning, as in on MoneyPuck's deserve to win meter, was 90.46%. Sprong's power play goal reduced the chances down to 81.78%, as in they were down 4-3 and still had an 81% chance of losing the game. Then Yanni Gore tied it. That made it 51% for a Flames chance of winning. And then when Matty Beniers scored a little bit later, the Flames chance to win dropped down to 12% or 12.7%, or actually 12.3. So the Flames in a 5-minute span went from having a 90% chance to win to a 12% chance to win. That is insane, but that's hockey. That's so anyway, that is our disclaimer of weird crap can happen in hockey, arguably more so than any other sport. So
even just to say, tonight, I was watching the Leafs play, and the goalie lost his blade and they didn't blow the play down, and Tavares scored on a power play. Like, right? Like would that normally been stopped? Probably, but
depends on the
goalie can't push, so the net's wide open, right? Like that's a goal that just happens and occurs because of the randomness of the game. So yeah, it's we're still. I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna keep going. I feel like if I keep just sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to find the right odds, but it's something that I try to find value stuff. I might start putting a few more negative lines on there though, because I've been trying to go positive to try and get speed.
You want to balance it out. You want to balance it out.
Yeah, I always put one negative on there. But
Shane, do you have any fantasy hockey tips this week, or are you going to do that next week?
Oh, I can do that right now. If not Arthur Kaliev, Gabriel Velarde is still available in your league, we're going to do a little fantasy update here. Pick him up. He has scored in 8 out of 12 games. 1 goal. He's playing on the top line. He looks like he belongs. His offensive metrics are fantastic. If you look at the Rap'em charts, way too early. You need 30 game sample size, but you can see how they've done so far. Gabriel Velarde, left and right wing eligibility, scoring leagues, power play leagues, anything that counts those. Pick him up now. Don't wait. He is rolling. Former top 10 pick. I think he was 7th overall.
He's always a top 10 pick. He didn't get unpicked.
Yeah.
This is my bitching about this. It's alternate captain, not assistant captain. Once you're a first round pick, you're forever a first round pick. Same with the Olympics. They're like Cassie Campbell isn't a former Olympian. She's a past Olympian. She's Olympian in the past. She didn't stop. It's not like she
an Olympian. The gold medal doesn't disappear off the trophy case. So
God, I hope not. That terrified me.
Right now it's Gabriel Velarde, and keep an eye on if you don't have him yet. I mean, the news should be out. Rookie Kalen Addison's running the top power play unit with Gabriel Kaprizov, Matt Zuccarello, and some very impressive rookie forwards over Minnesota. Keep an eye on Kalen Addison. If he's available, don't hesitate. It's hard to get D that can score points, let alone ones that are running a power play for a team that's structurally well built. So those are my 2 kind of early season picks. Next season next week we'll make more of a plan, and I'll come with a little more info for you guys. So
beautiful. That brings us to what a segment we're affectionately calling Listener Mailbag, where once a week before that we record, we go on Twitter and say, hey, send us questions. So we got a few questions in. We're going to pick one. I'll let Shane decide which one we pick, because I don't want that kind of responsibility in my life.
Oh, and I just gotta go back to the tweet real quick and look, because I know there was one you liked, and I liked that one too.
Yes. Justin Temple on Twitter asked us, is it the defense or the goaltending that have been the biggest issue to the start of the season? In the first 8 games last year, they had a .958 save percentage compared to a .901 this year. They also had more high danger chances against this year compared to last year.
If they stopped turning the puck over, that would stop happening. Like the defense has not been as good or as mobile or as structured, which is a bit surprising. But I mean, I like the right-left balance, and they're missing that a little bit. They're doing right, and I think they got to get used to that a little bit. That's my own a thing. And Markstrom had a bad game, which does happen. He didn't have a bad game start last season.
And yeah, I think it was like, I would say it's sort of like a perfect storm of weird stuff. Like, because like, say you have a bunch of new guys, new positions. You have a goaltender who was under the weather for the Colorado game, and I don't think he was 100% for the first few games. So, and then you have, if the best way as a goaltender you feel confident in your game is game reps. If you're just dog shit tired because of an illness in the first game, then you don't play against Edmonton. So your next game is a Vegas game where you give up a goal early, and that sort of rattles you. I would say that it's a combination, to more specifically answer Justin's question. I think it's a combination of the defense isn't as cohesive as it was, because I think because they have so many new faces in their 5-man units, they're not playing as a cohesive whole yet, which is leading to better chances against the opposition, which would be reflected in the high danger chances against. But also, I don't think Markstrom was as sharp this season to start as he was last year. And I think that you could directly point to the illness impacting his rhythm, impacting his confidence, impacting a lot of other things. So
the other thing I want to point out is there's a lot of teams that just played their 11th game of the season tonight, and Calgary's at 8. So their schedule was in October very spread out. This coming week and this coming month, they're going to have a lot more reps. They're actually going to have some road games after next week or at the end of this week anyways. And I think that's going to help them as well. Get out on the road, get away from home, be with the boys, just focus on hockey. Like you have a routine on the road that's a little.
Here's my caveat, and we might as well just transition into what we call coming up. Here's the games that are coming up in the next 7 days. There's a shitload of them, including the first time this season the Flames have left the province of Alberta. So Thursday they host Nashville. Saturday they host the surprisingly good,
scorching New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, the Devils. When I was a kid, the one of the two yearly tradition games were the Halloween game was Flames versus Devils. We're close to that, but we're off by a week or so. And the New Year's Eve game was Flames and Habs. We don't have those anymore. And schedule makers, please bring back our weird tradition games. Maybe we can convince these teams to wear their wacky throwback jerseys. The Flames wears theirs all the time because they're the best jerseys. That's an aside. So Thursday, Nashville, Saturday at home against the New Jersey Devils. Then they're on the road. And so they play Monday at the Belmont Park Arena, the UBS Arena in scenic Belmont Park, Long Island, against the New York Islanders. It will be about 3 weeks after the 50th anniversary of the first Flames Islanders game. The Flames, when they were in Atlanta, and the Islanders, when they were an expansion team, played for the first time in October 1972. So it'll be a 50th anniversary game. I don't know if the Islanders are doing anything to commemorate it, but I just think it's neat. The next night, they go to scenic Newark, New Jersey to play the New Jersey Devils for the second time in 4 days. 3 days? 4 days. Second time in 4 days, because they'll play them Saturday and they'll play them Tuesday.
Oh, they get it back to back. Yeah, they play Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. They get Sunday off, and 2 of those games are against the Devils.
Sunday's not even a day off. They're traveling. They travel Sunday.
They'll fly into New York and then have to deal with the giant metropolis that is New York.
So yeah, and I think the challenge for the Flames is so they do. We'll record in between right after the back-to-back, but then they play Thursday against the Boston Bruins, and then they come back home for the weekend. So I'll say this about road trips. Road trips are great if you have it's like you play in a city, you fly somewhere, you have a night off, you all hang out, then you fly to another city, you play again. If you have off nights together, it can be really nice. But I think the challenge of the Flames is the only off night they're probably going to have, they're going to have a travel day on Sunday, which will bring them to the New York area. So maybe they'll have a night off in New York. That'll be fun. Then they go to Boston. They'll have a night off in Boston, I think, which will be fun. But I would have liked to have seen a week long or 10-day long road trip. Functionally speaking, this road trip's 4 or 5 days long. So I think the ability for them to sort of go out and get into shenanigans and sort of bond as a group is a little bit muted with the length of the road trip and the fact that they have so many games sort of smushed together.
A day off in Boston with Hannafin on the team, though, would be all right. That's where he's from.
Kevin Rooney is a Boston guy too.
Boston. Down there, you watch the Bruins in the Garden. Yeah.
Boston. Oh God, everything you just said make my skin crawl. Please don't use that accent anymore.
But I mean, if we're gonna be all honest, Tuesday is what we would call, because I'm pretty sure New Jersey doesn't play on Monday, would be a scheduled loss. That's the same thing we talked about with some of these other games earlier in the year.
The Flames have had a lot of scheduled wins built into their schedules. Now it's come back the other way.
Yeah, it's going to come back and haunt them eventually. I like this. Let's get some Eastern teams. Let's go out there. Nashville just played the Oilers and got thwomped, so I'm not looking forward to the angry Nashville Predators team to try and find redemption on Calgary, especially when Calgary's on a 2-game slide. New Jersey's hot. I love that. It's hilarious to me that the fans chanted "Fire Lindy" and then they rattled off 6 straight wins. The fans in UBS were chanting, not UBS, sorry, wherever the Devils play.
Prudential Center.
They were chanting "Fire Lindy," I think 3 or 4 games into the year. And then they just popped off a bunch of wins. And now they're leading their division, I think. I haven't checked the standings. But it's gonna be fun. I like Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes he should be above a point per game player this year.
Nico Hischier is having a hell of a year too.
And Jesper Bratt leads the league in points. That man, if there's a going to get paid-o-meter, he's at top. He's at the top. He signed a 1-year deal, I think it was, and he bet on himself, and he's gonna get a hefty truck of cash backed up to him. And then the Islanders, I'm interested because it's no longer Barry Trotz Islanders, it's Lane Lambert's Islanders. So are they going to be as well structured defensively as we saw with the Trotz era, or there's going to be a lot more loose, and is there going to be a lot more holes? They still have Ilya Sorokin, who is an unreal top tier goaltender. There's something to be said about the Russian goaltending in this league right now. It's very high end. And that's probably the one that intrigues me most, is because I'm just for the road teams, I'm very interested to see what the New York Islanders structurally look like under a new coach.
Yeah, so it's going to be a 4-game week, so there'll be no shortage of content at FlamesNation.ca and on our YouTube channel. So if you are starved for content or just like listening and or watching hockey content when you're supposed to be working, yes, we know what you're doing and we encourage it. Subscribe to the Nation Network YouTube channel. You can get all of our stuff. Flames Nation Radio with Shane and I, Flames Nation Live with Pat, the Shutdown and Flames podcast with an assortment of characters, usually including Audie, Taryn, Joe, Robert, Noah, others. And last but definitely not least, the Barn Burner every day at 10:30 on the weekdays. And occasionally we do weekend shows when the Oilers Nation guys break into the office, steal our beer, and call Boomer. So
still all the friggin' beer.
All the beer.
How dare they?
But to be fair, though, I got a big hug from Jay at the rink. So
I met him for the first time at the after game. I'm not going to say where. But
I know where, but I'm not allowed to say.
I know. I remember your picture with him in the jacket, and then I just bumped in. I'm like, "Hey, man, nice to meet
you." in the month of October, I got a picture with our CEO Jay Downton in both arenas in Alberta, which I consider achievement unlocked. So if you we encourage you to subscribe to the Nation Network YouTube channel. If you're like some people are going, I don't want to I don't want to see like the Oilers or Canucks content. I love quads, but maybe I don't want to watch Canucks conversation every day. If you go to playlists, bookmark the Flames Nation playlist, and then just go straight to there. You'll get pinged when anything live goes up. You can also just go straight to the playlist. We have new stuff, obviously, every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And for Flames Nation Radio and actually basically everything but Flames Nation Live, it's not yet a podcast, but it might be eventually. You can catch all of that stuff also audio only on any of the podcatchers of your choice, Apple, Spotify, whatever the hell else there is. There's basically, if you can get stuff in your ear holes through it, we'll have a podcast for you. So thank you again very much for listening, watching, clicking, etc. We just had our biggest month in the history of the site. And it's all because of you fine folks taking the time out to let us squawk at you about this, that, the other thing. So it's early this season. We still got 74 games to go. So there's going to be a lot more squawking to come. So make sure you're locked into all the content. As usual, Flames Nation Radio is brought to you by the wonderful folks at DoorDash, and we're also presented by Eau Claire Distillery, makers of Rupert's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. We'll come back at you in a week with another fine episode talking about 4 games, including the first 2 real road games of the year for the Flames, when they actually have to cross an international border to play some professional hockey. So we'll see you guys in a week. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.